happened during my sophomore year of college. I went to a large state university in the Midwest, the kind with massive, sprawling dorm complexes. Because flight tickets were outrageously expensive that year, I decided not to fly home to California for Thanksgiving break. My roommate Sarah left on Tuesday, and by Wednesday afternoon, the entire dormitory, a building that usually housed 400 students, was dead silent. The first 2 days were fine. It was actually nice to shower without waiting and play music without headphones. But by Friday night, the silence started to feel heavy. The dorm had an automatic lighting system in the hallways. The lights would dim if no motion was detected for 15 minutes. That night, around 11 p.m., I left my room to go to the bathroom down the hall. As I stepped out, the hallway was dark, which was normal. I waved my arms to trigger the sensor, and the lights buzzed on. I did my business, brushed my teeth, and headed back. Just as I reached my door, I heard it. A distinct beep of a keycard scanner from the stairwell door at the far end of the hall. Then the heavy clank of the metal door opening and closing. I froze. No one else was supposed to be on this floor. The RA had done a walkthrough. I was the only verified resident staying over. I convinced myself it was security doing rounds. I slipped into my room and locked the deadbolt. I sat on my bed listening. The hallway floor was tiled with cheap linoleum that squeaked under rubber soles. Squeak, 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 slow, deliberate steps. They weren't the brisk pace of a security guard. They stopped. Right outside my door, my heart was hammering so hard I thought it would wake the neighbors if I had any. I saw the shadow of 2 feet block the light creeping under the door gap. Then the handle jiggled. Gently at first, then violently. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling. The jiggling stopped instantly. Silence. Then a low, raspy voice whispered from the other side, right against the wood. "Open up. I forgot my key." It wasn't a voice I recognized. It sounded erratic, breathless. I grabbed my phone and dialed campus police. "There is someone trying to get into room 304, I whispered to the dispatcher. "Please hurry." While I was on the phone, the person outside started slamming their body weight against the door. Thud, thud. The wood frame cracked slightly. I backed into the furthest corner of the room, grabbing a pair of scissors from my desk. Suddenly, the slamming stopped. I heard the squeak, squeak, squeak fading away down the hall, followed by the stairwell door opening. Police arrived 3 minutes later. They swept the building. They didn't find anyone on my floor, but in the basement laundry room they found a sleeping bag, a pile of stolen food from the communal kitchens, and a collection of stolen student IDs. A homeless man had been living in the vents and laundry room for weeks, using stolen cards to move around. He had been trying doors on every floor, looking for an unlocked room to sleep in, or worse. To this day, I can't sleep without a door wedge jammer, even in my own house. I've always been a night owl, which is why I took the closing shift at the campus library. My university had a 24-hour section, but the main stacks closed at midnight. My job was to walk the floors, make sure everyone was out, and lock the internal doors. It was finals week, so the library was busier than usual. But by 11:45 p.m., mostly everyone had cleared out. I was on the 4th floor, which houses the history archives. It's a creepy floor. Tall metal shelves, narrow aisles, and flickering fluorescent lights. I was pushing my cart of books to reshelve when I saw him. A guy sitting at a study carrel in the far corner. He wasn't reading. He didn't have a laptop, a backpack, or even a phone. He was just sitting there facing the wall, wearing a thick gray hoodie with the hood up. "Excuse me, sir," I called out. "The library is closing in 10 minutes. He didn't move. He didn't even flinch. I walked a bit closer, annoyed. "Sir, you have to move to the 24-hour zone downstairs." Slowly, he turned his head. He didn't turn his body, just his neck, at an angle that looked painful. He had a blank, wide-eyed expression. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Okay," he said softly. I watched him stand up and walk toward the elevators. I finished my rounds, turned off the lights, and took the service elevator down to the lobby to clock out. It was now 12:15 a.m. The campus was covered in a thick fog, typical for November. My car was parked in the furthest lot, about a 10-minute walk. As I walked across the quad, the silence was eerie. I had my headphones in, but no music playing, a safety trick my dad taught me. About halfway to the parking lot, I heard footsteps behind me. Not just walking, but matching my pace. I sped up. They sped up. I stopped. They stopped, and I whipped around. Standing about 50 feet back under the halo of a street lamp was the gray hoodie guy. He was just standing there, smiling that same plastic smile. Panic set in. I turned and started speed walking. I didn't want to run and trigger a chase instinct, but my body was screaming at me to flee. I reached into my pocket for my keys, intertwining them between my knuckles. I reached the parking lot. It was nearly empty. I unlocked my car from a distance, the headlights flashing, a beacon of safety. I was 10 feet away when I heard the footsteps turn into a full-on sprint. I didn't look back. I lunged for the driver's side door, threw myself in, and slammed the lock button just as a hand slapped against the window. Whack! I screamed and fumbled with the ignition. Through the glass, his face was pressed against the window, mashed and distorted, eyes wide. He wasn't smiling anymore. He was mouthing something over and over. I threw the car into reverse and peeled out of there. When I reported it to campus security the next day, they checked the CCTV. They saw him following me. But the scariest part? He wasn't a student. He had been banned from campus 3 years prior for assaulting a girl in that same parking lot. If I hadn't locked that door the second I did, I would have been his next headline. In my junior year, my two best friends, Emily and Jess, and I rented an old Victorian house just off campus. It was a steal, cheap rent, 4 bedrooms, and a huge backyard. The landlord was an absentee guy who lived in Florida and just wanted the checks mailed on the 1st. The house was quirky. The floors slanted, the pipes groaned, and there was a draft that we couldn't locate. We used the 4th bedroom as a storage space for our suitcases and winter gear. About 2 months into the semester, things started getting weird. It started with food. A loaf of bread would disappear overnight. A carton of milk would be empty when I swore I bought it yesterday. We had a house meeting, accusing each other of eating stuff without asking. Everyone denied it, and it caused some serious tension. Then came the noises. Emily's room was directly under the attic. She started complaining about hearing scratching sounds above her ceiling fan at night. We joked that it was rats or raccoons. We called the landlord and he promised to send an exterminator, but he never did. One Tuesday, I came home early from class because I felt sick. The house was supposed to be empty. Jess was at work and Emily was in a lab. I walked into the kitchen and froze. The back door, which we always deadbolted, was wide open. I grabbed a kitchen knife, my heart racing. "Hello, Jess?" I called out. Silence. I crept through the house. Nothing was missing. The TV was there, our laptops were in our rooms. It didn't look like a robbery. I convinced myself that maybe Jess had come home for lunch and forgot to close it, though it was unlike her. I locked it and went to my room to nap. I woke up around 6 p.m. to screaming. I ran into the hallway. Emily was standing outside the storage room in the 4th bedroom, pale as a sheet. The door to the storage room was open. We usually kept it shut. "Look," she whispered, pointing at the closet inside the room. The closet in that room was small, with a panel in the ceiling that led to the attic. The panel was pushed aside. Hanging down from the hole was a makeshift rope ladder made of tied-together bed sheets. We ran out of the house immediately and called 911. When the police went up into the attic, they didn't find raccoons. They found a mattress, piles of empty food wrappers, our food, and a bucket used as a toilet. But that wasn't the worst part. Taped to the rafters were Polaroid photos. Photos of us watching TV. Photos of us cooking, and most terrifyingly, photos taken from the doorway of our bedrooms while we were sleeping. The police determined that a man had been living up there since before we moved in. He would come down when we were in class or asleep to eat and watch us. The scratching Emily heard was him moving around. The draft was the attic hatch being left slightly open. They never caught him. We broke our lease that night and never went back inside. Sometimes I still wake up at night and instinctively check the ceiling, terrified I'll see a hatch sliding open.